Report. I am Billy Derrick alongside Will Byram. This is episode 167. It is June 30th, 2022. We are powered by Alaco Fine Wood Floors. They are family owned and operated for over 2 decades. Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service. Growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If any of you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, Tennessee, or you can call them at 615-356-0303 or look at them on their website, alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995. All right, Will, we are back for another week. We finally started to get back a little bit more consistently now. I know, we've had these, at least I'll take the blame for most of those 2 week long breaks or a week long break, but let's try to stay consistent here. I think we're doing that. I think we're doing that, and it's pretty impressive. We're doing that in the dog days of summer. That we're finally starting to find a little bit of rhythm. But Will, we've got a nice list here. Top 5 moments inside Memorial Gym. I know. It's a little bit of a last-minute decision, but I texted you this, and you said, I've already got 4 in my mind right away.
Yeah, that was the problem, is I already had 4 in my mind right away. And then I sat down and started thinking through them, and I had a lot more than 4 in my head. This was very difficult, and I almost think that outside of number 1 for me, that you could pretty much interchange the other 4 that are in my top 5 in any order
Yes.
that you wanted to, from 2 to 5. But number 1 is my number 1. I wavered for a second, thinking maybe that there were some other moments that might creep up there and take over that number 1 spot on my list. But then I went back and I watched the old footage. I listened to the Joe Fisher call, so
Mm-hmm.
that'll give you a time
That'll make
frame
a
in which
difference.
that my number 1 is for. But I still got chills, and it still brought that little. Somebody started cutting onions in the room, so that was most certainly my number 1, and I'm very excited for this list, Billy. But it was much tougher to make than I expected. I think it was almost tougher than the all-time Commodore list that we
Oh,
did last episode.
yeah, I mean, we thought that was tough. This one is even tougher because there's so many to choose from. I mean, you look back and we have our different opinions on these, but at the same time, there's a lot of older people that they might go back a little bit further than us, back into the '60s, maybe '70s. That I mean, I don't even know
I
of.
think this
So
one will have a lot more variation than our all-time Commodores did. I think that there was a little bit of variation in lists, but I think if you expanded it out to top 10, that probably
yeah,
like 7, 8 of the guys would have at least been the same in that top 10. But
yes, yeah,
basketball, I think it's really going to show the age of the fan and how long you've been attending games and watching games that were happening at Memorial Gym, because man, it's just tough when you didn't watch them live, and then the
yeah.
limited ability to find highlights, Billy.
It's crazy.
Thank
I mean,
God for ESPN, ESPN Plus, because you can find every single game, the full game and highlights on YouTube for every game from like 2016 and on. And then there's a little bit of like '08 to 2015-ish that you can find some games. And then before that, it's a black hole. I mean, you
yeah,
might as well
yeah.
be trying to find CIA documents. Like, it is impossible to find game footage from like 2004 or
It's
like
funny.
2007. It's brutal,
It's funny, most of the videos are on YouTube are just videos that
man.
somebody put together, and they put Joe Fisher's voice in the background. Like, that's the
Or they
extent
just put
of the
some
video. Like,
random default iMovie sound,
yeah.
like music in the background, like bum ba da bum ba, or some
Yeah.
rock music in the back that really dates it, because never in a million years would now you put rock music, like this heavy rock music, Nickelback type, behind a clip or
That's
highlights of a
that's how you
basketball game.
know
But that
that's how
really
you
dates
know
some of the clips that we were watching
Yeah,
in
that's how you
preparation.
know it's prior to 2010. Like that's how you know. So we'll get to those top 5 moments inside Memorial Gym. We will also talk about a couple other things. A lot of recruiting going on in every sport: basketball, baseball, football. We'll get into a little bit of that, but more importantly, Isaiah West, the Good Pasture standout 4-star on ESPN, has committed to Vanderbilt. So we'll get to that, Will. But before we get to all that, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at @door_report and Instagram Door.report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and review on iTunes. All right, let's get to our breaking news. All right, well, let's start here with Mr. Isaiah West, a recent commitment to Vanderbilt. He, of course, plays at Good Pasture. He's staying home, and the funny thing is here, Will, every site has him listed at 6'1", 170 pounds. But earlier today, he actually tweeted that he's 6'3", 190. And he tweeted that earlier today. We retweeted it from the door report. He's a combo guard. Vandy's seen a few good players at that position over the years. Guys like Saban Lee, Scottie Pippen Jr. Darius Garland was a point guard, but I mean, there's been the past decade and over the years, even 20 years, going back 20 years, Vanderbilt's seen a lot of really good shooting guards in general. So Isaiah West joins that list. He announced his commitment on Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon, I think. Chose Vanderbilt over Virginia, Ohio State, Louisville, Cincinnati, Clemson, Ole Miss, TSU, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. Those teams were in his top 10. But, well, I mean, he's the number one ranked prospect in the state of Tennessee. I mean, that's all you need to know right there in the class of 2023. He's a 3-star on 24/7. He'll likely be bumped up. I mean, you got to believe he will. You see this sometimes with ESPN and 24/7 where they're off 1 star. ESPN has him as a 4-star. He is commonly referred to as a 4-star. I'm sure he would rather be referred to as a 4-star as well. In his Twitter. But he's a number 44 overall prospect in the ESPN 100. So ESPN is a lot higher on him than anyone else will. And, I mean, we'll see what that means. But this is a really, really solid pickup for Stackhouse.
Yeah, local talent, guard position. And then this is the funny thing about rankings. So everybody gets obsessed with the 3-star, 4-star differentiation. And you listed out the difference between ESPN and 24/7. But the funniest part is he's ranked the number 148 player nationally on 24/7 Sports. And he's a 3-star in both the 24/7 Sports rankings and their composite rankings. The number 139 player, 9 spots above, is a 4-star. So that's the difference. That's how close he's on that edge. And then if you go in and look at his recruiting ranking history, this is one of the things that I always like to look at in football a lot more, but in basketball, it also is kind of crazy to see the trajectory and how small the differentiation is between a 5-star, a 4-star, and a 3-star in those top 150 nationally ranked players. Because at one point, he was the number 29 player in the entire country. And that was less than 2 years ago. That was a year and a half ago. And then as recently, if I can get it pulled back up here as my laptop decides to freeze just a little bit, as recently as April 11th, no, even more recently than that, on April 15th, 2022. So 2 months ago, 3 months ago, he was the number 58 player in the country. And for whatever reason, in the offseason, the basketball offseason, what in the hell has he possibly done between April 15th right now and then in July? Has he gone to a couple AAU camps? Has he maybe played in a couple AAU tournaments and gotten bumped? I mean, this is the crazy part is this commitment, if it would happen 3 months ago, would have been heralded as a staple foundational piece for Jerry Stackhouse moving forward. And now, because in the last 2.5 months, because maybe he played one bad tournament, now it's just a 3-star. Now it's just a 3-star on 24/7. And that's what's so stupid about where we get obsessed with the stars. Now, when you watch the tape, I think he's a 4-star. Now, does every single time talent work out and he's coming into kind of a crowded position? I would say with Noah Shelby, that would likely be the ball handler in that position for the foreseeable future. But, I mean, it's a good piece, and you can't just have 1 or 2 guards. And we found out, and we have seen recently with Jerry Stackhouse, that depth on this team has been a terrible problem. And in the NCAA in general, I think that's going to continue to be a problem because of the ease of transferring, which I'm a fan of. But this is just a default issue that's going to happen, is you can't keep talented players as that 6th, 7th, 8th man rotational player. If it's a guy that is talented, he's going to transfer out into a better opportunity where he gets more playing time as a starter and a focused player in that offense. It's very difficult now to keep a talented rotational player in college basketball. Vanderbilt's been the beneficiary of that at times, but you're going to see that more and more, that you're just going to have guys transfer out after 1-2 years because they have that free transfer, end quote. But we'll see. I mean, we'll see if he's able to work into the rotation. It's hard for me to get excited about recruits too much anymore because I'm so excited about this current class that they have coming in, and I'm very excited. Colin Smith, Noah Shelby, Lee Dort, Malik Diaz. So it's I'm not looking too far forward, but good commit for Stackhouse in the upcoming class.
Yeah, and Will, he's got an interesting story. Of course, local kid out of Goodpasture, and you know he actually led them to their first ever state title last year. He averaged about 16 points, 6 rebounds. But last December, he went down with a season-ending knee injury. So this is, of course, 2 years ago, and this cost him most of his junior year. So he's kind of been hampered with injuries. So that could have been a factor in the rankings pushback. He simply didn't play that second half of that junior year. And I didn't know how long he was out for his injury, but that was most of his junior year. And so,
Well,
he
that's what
should.
I'm getting at. That's I think I didn't really realize that because honestly, I'm moving, so I've been insanely busy and haven't prepped near as much outside of this top 5 list, but that didn't happen on April 15th. And that's what drives it. I'm like, what
Right.
triggered
Yeah.
that? Not just a 10 spot drop, 20 spot drop, but he's dropped down from being the 58th player to 148. He's dropped 90 spots. So in this time frame, he already had the injury. What could he possibly have done to
Yeah.
significantly drop him from the edge of being possibly a 5 star to being a 3 star? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's a hell of a question. I mean, AAU, the way they value that and the recruiters value it, it's crazy. I mean, regular seasons for most guys don't even really matter. I mean, I remember when Darius Garland played at BA, it looked like, I mean, I was the same year as him. I mean, it looked like he wasn't even trying half the time, when he's playing those high school seasons, but he gets on the AAU floor, he turns it up a notch. So, and, that's kind of, I think that's majority of sports, of course, but I mean, this kid Paul Biancardi, national recruiting coordinator at ESPN, he had this to say about him: athletic guard who scores with his drive game and jumper, and he plays with IQ and vision. And so, I think there's a lot of potential here. I'm not saying this guy's going to be. I don't know that he's on the level of Noah Shelby. Obviously not because of the rating. But at the same time, this guy 2-3 years down the road, he could become a pretty big foundation piece and kind of working along Shelby and some of those other guards down the road. So really solid pickup all the way around for Vanderbilt. And, it'll be fun to kind of watch him this season at Goodpasture and see, I think they're going for their third straight state title. So, he's had some success there and staying home. Apparently Vanderbilt's been his dream school ever since he was, 11, 12 years old. So anytime you hear that, I mean, let's face it, that's kind of rare. But he is from Nashville. And so, I mean, that's pretty cool for Vandy fans. So, Isaiah West has committed to Vanderbilt. We'll kind of keep track of his season at Goodpasture. But Will, I know you had some football notes before we were talking. Andrew Page decommitted. He was, I think, the lowest rated recruit in the class of 2022. Kind of a late addition of that class. He decommitted, local kid for Vanderbilt. But other than that, there's some baseball news. Andrew, this name, I'm going to butcher this name so bad, but I think it's Dutkanich. Andrew Dutkanich will actually go to Vanderbilt. I mean, he's a guy that is likely expected to go in the first round. So those are a couple other notes. A lot of recruiting going on, Will. But that's pretty much it. I mean, dog days of summer, all you got's recruiting, and that's pretty much all you got to talk about.
As
In
we
the
inch
dog days.
closer to football, we will discuss recruiting a little bit more and more. I feel like we have a lot of time to discuss guys that haven't even played their senior year of high school yet. There's a lot of time to discuss these
Yeah.
guys and discuss the class. So I don't want to get too hung up on things. It's early. Guys are going to decommit. Things are going to change, and they've had a lot of movement recently in that class and a lot of momentum. You've had some commits from some 3 stars. You've had some commits. You felt some momentum going, but you haven't seen the big dominoes fall yet. So when that
Mhm.
happens, and hopefully there will be big dominoes because that's not a guarantee, then we will discuss the details of the recruiting a little more. But
Yeah.
as of right now, it's just kind of small little notes of guys committing. I don't mean to delegitimize it or not focus on it, but I'm pretty hung up on this top 5 list. You've
Oh
got me
yeah.
pretty
It's
focused on that.
Yeah, laser focused on the top five. But we've got time to talk about Ethan Crisp, your Mount Juliet boy. Will, don't worry, we've got plenty of time there. But Will, let's get into it. The top five moments inside Memorial Gym, and Will, bear with me. I'm going to do my best to, of course, show up the 1 through 5 for each of us. But for videos, I can't promise pulling up every video, but I'm going to do my best to try to screen share these videos. Haven't tried it before yet, but bear with us,
Big adventure
everybody.
here. We couldn't even get your microphone to work at the beginning, and now we're going to try video sharing. So this is
Hey,
going to go amazingly well.
oh, it's going to go perfect. It's going to go very smooth. But Will, let's keep the same format. You want to go with your number five here first, 1 through 5. But we're going to start with number five. Of course, top 5 moments inside Memorial Gym. Will, get us kicked off here.
So number 5 is going to be And this has nothing to do. This is why I said I could rotate my 2 through 5 anywhere. This is only going to be number 5, not because of the significance at the moment, but because I wasn't alive for it. So it's hard for me to really elaborate on what is going on. And also at that time, it wasn't on television. There's just the radio call, and that's going to be the Barry Goheen half court shot
Oh,
against Louisville, number 13 Louisville at the time in 1989. That is the main story that my dad talks about every single time. I remember him telling me that story when I was little, and I will never forget that story. And that was the first thing that I heard of kind of this aura around Memorial Gym and Memorial Magic. And Louisville at that time, they had Purvis Ellison that year. So that was a huge win, and Mr. Memorial Magic and Barry Goheen. So I hope that will give a little shout out to the game or the eras of Vanderbilt basketball that we weren't necessarily alive. I don't say necessarily, we just weren't alive to witness. And there's
right.
no way that we can have an appreciation for it because a lot of those games didn't air on TV. So here we are. Number 5 for me is going to be the Barry Goheen half court shot against number 13 Louisville in 1989.
I mean, Will, you're right about Mr. Memorial Magic. Like, I don't, of course, we may not have proof of this, but we've talked to older people on this. I mean, he's kind of that first pioneer. There might have been a guy before him, but I mean, for Barry Goheen, that's kind of what I've heard on him in that shot. So I missed that, Will. You beat me to the punch there. But for my number 5, Will, you're going to get a kick out of this. It's a lot more recent, a lot more recent. Not too recent, but I'm going to go back to 2011, and it is Jeffrey Taylor's dunk versus Georgia. And this isn't a game, but this is a single moment. This is a dunk. I wanted to try to get a dunk in here somehow. Vandy hasn't, they're not. Let's face it, they're not loaded with explosive dunks inside Memorial Gym. But I remember my
Damian
dad.
Jones, come on now.
Yeah, there's a few. There's a few, but there's more 3-pointers and game winning threes there. But well, funny story. As I get this up, Jeffrey Taylor's dunk versus Georgia. It's hard. It's hard being the producer, Will. But there it is. So Jeffrey Taylor's dunk versus. Oh, okay. Here we go. We're good. Jeffrey Taylor's dunk
Nailed
versus
it.
Georgia. Well, this starts here because my dad used to be an usher inside Memorial Gym. The green shirt guys that would hopefully know where everybody sits and their tickets and everything. And he had a great view for this. And I remember it was a school night, and he came back home, and I remember watching it on TV. I was like, Dad, what was it like inside Memorial Gym for that? He was like, that's the best dunk I've ever seen in that gym. And he had been, ushering there for, I think it's like since 2007 or 08, through like 2014. So he's seen a lot of really good games inside Memorial Gym. And I wanted to get a little surprise in here for number 5. Of course, I think it's a really underrated moment. Dave Neal on the call, he said there's a buzz in this gym after that. The dunk was number 1 on SportsCenter top 10 the next morning. And, I wanted to make sure I get a dunk in the top 5. And Will, I know you've seen it. It's kind of insane the way first off, the pass has to be perfect. The inbounds pass was perfect. I forget who threw the inbounds pass, but the inbounds pass was perfect on the baseline. And for him to reach up as high as he did and be able to dunk that was incredible. I'm not going to try to get that video up. As we get up higher in our list, we'll try to pull those videos up. But I went with a little shocker there, Will. Number 5, Jeffrey Taylor's dunk. It's really, I'll admit it right now, that's the most recent I'm going to go, for Vanderbilt moments. So that's as recent as I'm going to go. And so number 5 for me, Jeffrey Taylor's dunk versus Georgia inside Memorial Gym.
That is more recent than anything on my list. I will say there's nothing. So that will be the most recent on all of these lists, which in a way is a little bit sad. But so my number 4 is going to be the only other one that we're not going to try to pull up any video for. And so my number 4 is going to be Vandy beating number 1 Florida in 2007. And then the little bonus of, which is the video I was trying to find, but I could only find it in GIF format, so I couldn't find it for you to be able to pull up, but is the interaction with Kevin Stallings and Joakim Noah. That is still it's like that video has been scrubbed from the internet. I had the link saved to that video on YouTube, like 3 different links, all of them, every single one of them have been taken down or restricted or something. So I don't know if Vanderbilt has specifically done that, and they've wanted to do that, but it's going to be taking down number 1 Florida in 2007, which started the modern lore around Vanderbilt and number 1 teams coming into Memorial and the tough place to play. And it's always been that, but that's what kind of signifies the run into '08 that they had, which is where a lot of the best memories I have of Vanderbilt basketball are associated with, is that '08, '07 stretch. So we're going to go with that. Vanderbilt takes down number one Florida with Joakim Noah in that '07 year.
Very solid. I think the only video available for that, Will, is like the Sports Center clip, and you see Kevin Stallings. You see a little bit of this, his altercation, I guess you could say, with Joakim Noah, kind of an iconic moment in Memorial Gym. I mean, that's one of the moments you look back at, you say, I mean, Kevin Stallings almost fought Joakim Noah. Like it's pretty legendary, and he's that kind of coach. I mean, he was that kind of guy. So that's a great moment there. Will, I'm gonna go number 4 for me. And, this won't shock a lot of people, but I'm going to date a few of the younger generation Vanderbilt fans. March 21st, 2005, Corey Smith's full court Hail Mary to beat Wichita State in the 2005 NIT. And, Will, of course, I was not here at this game. But, I mean, you go back and watch this video on YouTube. It's pretty incredible to see not only how much time was left. I mean, there was 0.7 seconds.
0.7 seconds, Billy.
0.7.
I know that for a reason.
That was that.
I know 0.7 seconds for a reason.
Hey, I think I know why. But Will, I mean, it's incredible. This video is just. I mean, this has to be up there for one of the best, not only Vanderbilt moments, but SEC, national college basketball. I mean, game winners. I mean, it's incredible. It's 2005 NIT, and basically, again, I know what's going on here. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I'll save a little bit for you. But it's funny. Mario Moore, the former Antioch High School star, he had 31 points in that game. He had 9 3-pointers, so he went off in that game. But the hero of the game was Corey Smith. Jason Holwerda threw the inbounds pass all the way. I mean, I can't figure out which is better, the pass or the layup. I mean, I got to barely go the layup, just because you got to catch it and finish, and you've got 0.7 seconds. But, Will, that pass was unreal. I mean,
I think the best part of that play probably is Wichita State's defense with 0.7 seconds left. I think that was probably the best part of the play. Now, it was an incredible pass, incredible finish. But I think the best part of that is how in the hell, with 0.7 seconds left, was he standing that open on the other end of the court? And that's still, I watched that video in preparation. I still looked at it, and I still have no idea what Wichita State was thinking on that play. So
I mean,
I don't know if you have I don't know if you have a video or if you have capability of sharing here, Billy.
I'm trying to pull it up, Will. Vandy.
So if you click on number, I believe 4 on the links that I have in the Google Doc, I think, or number 2, one of those two.
Usually it helps if you pull it up. Okay, I've got the video, Will. I'm gonna wait a little bit here. This is the first time we've ever screen shared anything, so bear with us here. Share screen. Okay, entire screen. Yep. Okay.
Let's see how this goes.
So share the entire screen. Okay. Oh, look at that.
Oh,
look at that.
Wow,
Will.
That's horrible.
Okay. All right, here we go.
All right, so this is the News Channel 5, so I've got something ready later. No audio. Is there no audio here, Billy?
Do you hear it, Will?
No.
Okay, let's just watch it. Let's just watch. So Mario Moore, you see him going off. Let's go forward.
Yeah, you gotta fast forward on this. Yeah. There it is. What are the? Yep. So they intentionally missed the free throw here. So Wichita State intentionally missed the free throw.
Oh, how is he that open?
But so we'll go ahead and move to my number 3. I'll slide that one to number 3 so that you can click the link and share the other one that I have, which I think is the link number on number 4 in the Google Doc there, Billy, if you want to try to open that one.
Okay, I will pull that up. Go ahead and start talking about it.
Yeah, so number 3. So you said you weren't at this game, of course. I was at this game, and I was actually sitting directly behind. There we go. Yep, so the audio is playing, Billy. I can hear you.
Oh, the audio is playing?
Oh, yeah, it's playing right now in my ears.
Wait, what audio?
I don't know. Okay. There's audio. I'm delayed because whatever. All right, this is a mess. We got to work on this. We got to get a producer, but we'll get back to it. So number 3 for me, since you already stole it and put it at number 4, is going to be the Wichita State game. And I was actually at that game. And if you zoom in on the Tennessean newspaper headline, and the front on, I think it was the sports section, the front page picture. You can see me in the background in a blue jersey holding up my arms because I was sitting on one of the basket ends on that end where he shot the layup. I was in that section,
That's
directly
insane.
in that first section. So I was directly next to and had a great view of that. So I was at that NIT second round game. But if you pull up that one, that's one of the links that I shared. It actually has Vanderbilt. So not only were they number one, but also the Wichita State play that led up to number one, I think, was number two. So Wichita State was down 2 points and intentionally missed the free throw, got the rebound and scored.
Yes.
And then number one was that ensuing out of bounds pass where, of course, Corey Smith hit that last second layup
Yeah.
and they moved on in the NIT. But they were number one and number two simultaneously. Well, number
Yeah.
two, they were the victim. And number one, they were able to get it back. And I'll always remember seeing that from that angle. And that was one of those things that was what, 2009? You got to correct me, 7? It's getting, I think
I'm
9.
not sure. I
09.
think it was 9. Yeah.
Yeah, 2009. But even in that moment, I think I was in like 5th grade. And even in that, I was like, you're not going to see this, like something like this ever again with this angle. And you know what, Billy? I have not. And I've yet to see anything like that ever again in person, and especially with Vanderbilt. So number 3, I actually had that as number 2, but you kind of blew the load a little early there, Billy. You jumped the gun.
Okay. Well, I'm going to try to share this. Here's the video. We're going to try this again.
Yeah,
Here
this is
the
Sports Center. Yeah, this is Sports Center heyday right here. This is
the Sports Center video. Here it is.
So they missed this free throw, and they
Yep.
actually managed to get that, which is classic Vanderbilt. I mean, you just don't get more classic Vanderbilt than that.
No, you don't. You really
And
don't.
then the
And here it
ensuing
is.
number 1 is this.
There it
Which
is.
still, the more I watch it, the more I have no idea. And I'm gonna have to give credit to the pass. You asked the question of what's better, the pass or the finish. The finish was great, but
How
that
is he?
pass,
How is he this
I s-
open? How is he this wide open? Look at that.
I still don't understand why they had 2 guys right next to the ball with 0.7 seconds left. That close. You can't, there's no way. You want them to catch it. I don't know why he was denying the ball to the point guard there directly in front of the inbounds passer. That was probably one of the lowest IQ sports moments for an entire team with Wichita State there. That is something that coach just had to slam down his clipboard and just lay down face flat in that locker room. There's no way Wichita State's
It's
coach
unbelievable.
coached anything associated with that. They thought no way, and still,
I mean, it looks
I
like
vividly remember that. That's one of those core memories that I think will
Yeah.
certainly. And I think they said 2005, so it was a little bit
Yep.
earlier. I think
2005.
than,
Yeah.
than I.
Yeah.
Man,
I was thinking
I don't know
of
what
it
the
that way.
after another 25 years, man, the years are already getting really, really tough for me to keep up with what happened in what year. So I imagine that's only going to get worse. So number
Yeah.
3 is the same as your number 4. Once again, stealing my thunder, Billy.
There it is. Yeah. Well, and I was debating switching up my number 4 and my number 3 because they're very similar in year. And I think you know what I'm talking about here. And we already said we would have very similar numbers here. But for me, as I get this written up, it is the same year, 2005, and it is Mario Moore's 30-foot buzzer beater versus Oregon. And this is a non-conference game versus Oregon in this regular season. This is the season before Corey Smith's full court Hail Mary to beat Wichita State in the NIT in 2005. So that's kind of where the years are. And similar, Mario Moore in 05 through 06, kind of 7 at least. I mean, he was kind of the poster child for one of them at least for Memorial Magic at Vanderbilt. 3.3 seconds left. Vandy's down by 2. Keep in mind, only 3.3 seconds. So again, different than 0.7 seconds, but you've got 3.3 seconds to set up a play. Coach Stallings calls a timeout. He's set to set up a full court game winner, and that's exactly what he does. Damari Carroll has the inbound, and Mario Moore. I mean, this shot he hit was highly contested. I mean, and it feels like it was from deeper than just 30 feet out. Also,
Do you have video for
looked
this
like,
one, Billy? Were you able to find
yeah,
video for
I'm
this
gonna
one?
I'm gonna do my best to pull this up, and I think this is actually easily accessible on YouTube. But Will, when you go back and watch this video, and I think I have found it, it's incredible. I mean, the contest, he had to shoot it higher than he normally would for a 30-foot shot because of the guy that was in his face. And so I think I'm able to pull it up here as we share the screen once again. And Here it is again. Number one
We
on
got to
Sports
figure out.
Center.
We got it. Yeah, this is pretty crazy. How many number one moments that
Yeah.
Vanderbilt has had in this
Here
list?
it
It's
is,
kind
Mario
of. I didn't
Moore.
realize that.
I mean, you look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, look at him. The guy's on him pretty well, but I mean, maybe a step off.
It's
but
how he shot it. I mean, that's the thing. That is the type of shot that just hasn't gone in the last like 10 years. For whatever reason, that shot just hasn't gone in, and for the years before that, it did.
Yeah, there has been more times than not that shot is attempted, but it doesn't go in. Whether it's John Jenkins, you saw AJ Ogilvy versus Kentucky that one year have a floater in the lane that didn't go in, but for that shot to go in, I mean, and it ends the game. They're wearing the gold uniforms at home. You got the old Vanderbilt logos. You got the stars on the baseline.
That's the same Vanderbilt type logo that I've got right here. It's before the baseball adoption and rebranding of that same V. But
yeah, I mean that's vintage Vanderbilt. Will that is vintage Vanderbilt inside Memorial Gym. After the game, it's funny. Mario Moore said he had a dream the night before that he was going to win the game, and I saw that in the article. I thought that was crazy. Derek Byers, we remember him. He had 20 points that night, but Shane Foster only had 5 points. He struggled that night. So Mario Moore kind of had to pick up a little bit of the slack here. I didn't get his final line. But man, Mario Moore, his name, as I'm kind of studying, researching for these top fives, his name came up a lot. And so Mario Moore kind of in that 04 through 06 range, kind of dominated Memorial Magic moments. I mean, Shane Foster was in that time period too, but specific moments, that he was a part of, he had that game winner. He also had 31 points in that game, against Wichita State. So those two, Wichita State and then Oregon games, those are up there for everybody. I mean, they have to be. So that's my number 3. Will Mario Moore's 30-foot buzzer beater to beat Oregon in another game I wasn't at. I don't know if you were, but I'm sure
that one completely is slipped my mind. Is not on my list in the same way with the Goheen shot with yours that wasn't on there. So that one is nowhere to be found. So there's a lot more going to be a little bit more variation. There aren't as many clear answers as I think the all-time Commodores. But so I guess we can move to my number 2, and I do have the ability to share my screen, by the way. So I'm going to attempt to share my own screen here. We will see if this works. If it allows me. Yes, I think we may be able to. Okay.
Here we go. I'm interested to see what this is. Top 5 there it is.
You see it?
Vince Gill. Yep.
All right, it's not what I'm trying to pull. I'm skipping forward.
You put me on the spot here?
Yes. It's reset where I was. Yeah, this is not very easy to really. But can you hear the audio at least with it?
I can hear the audio.
So this is why it is my number 1 moment. Or not number 1, my number 2 moment. Look at that crowd. Look at that environment. And if you can't hear the audio right now, what the announcer is saying is something along the lines of, this is one of the toughest tickets to get in Nashville ever in Vanderbilt history. This place is about to explode. And then at the end, they make a similar comment to that. So I don't know how to stop sharing this screen, but I'm going to try. There we go.
We should be good now.
So I don't know how that went, but I guess we'll see after we go back and watch this episode. This will be our test case here. So hopefully not too many people have tuned in. I do see that we currently have more viewers than Jared Stillman did during his live episode show that was tweeted from 102.5 The Game. Somehow we have managed to have more live viewers at the exact same time. We was 30 minutes into his show. I looked, he had 3 live viewers, and not to brag or anything, but right now we have 4. So we are beating Jared Stillman.
Not bad.
So that's something. That's something.
And the key will.
Twitter.
The key, Will, is when you go back, the post viewers are key.
No, I understand that. This is all about live viewers here, and he's got a machine behind him in local Nashville radio there in ESPN 102.5 The Game. And we have still managed to beat him in current live viewers on Twitter. So Billy, I'm taking the wins where I can get him here because we're testing out this screen sharing, and I think that'll be able to take us to a little bit better on this broadcasting
learn
thing. But yeah, I do like the funhouse mirror effect that you get for a little bit, for a second there every time you share the screen. So this is something that we continue to learn how to use this restream platform. But here we go. Ready for your
Here
number
we
2 now, Billy.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna say it. I have the same exact number 2 as you.
And I bet we're going to have the same number 1, too.
Yep, we are. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, when you go through this top 5, I think 1 and 2 are fairly obvious for most people, and then you get
And
to
by the
3
way, if
through
you want to go ahead and
5.
get it pulled up and make sure, it's actually the number 1. If you want to share your screens from a tweet that we put out, it's that number 1 link
Yeah,
in the Google
I've
Doc.
got
Because
it
I
ready.
almost guarantee, so as you go into your number 2
I
and go ahead and get prepped for the number 1,
Yeah,
that will
I've
definitely
I've
be
got
one that a
I've
lot of
got that
Commodore fans remember.
Yeah, I've got that ready to roll. But Will, I want to add on to what you said about this night, and it's inside Memorial Gym. Nearly 11 years ago, Vanderbilt Commodores welcomed number 1 ranked Tennessee to Memorial Gym. It was a freezing cold, snowy evening in Nashville. Tennessee was coming off a huge win over Memphis at the FedEx Forum that Saturday night. Problem was for Bruce Pearl's Vols, that was one of the most anticipated college college basketball games in the history of the sport. And Bruce Pearl's Vols had to enter this rowdy dungeon that was Memorial Gym on a Tuesday night. And this is big. This is Big Tuesday, as they used to say on ESPN. Everyone in the country's
Super Tuesday.
watching. Super Tuesday. The way you know it's a big game, I think people saw at the beginning. Vince Gill did the intro on ESPN, and he's wearing a Vanderbilt jacket, a black Vanderbilt jacket before the game, and he's sitting in the Grand Ole Opry singing "One More Last Chance." Like, I mean, one of his classic traditional songs. And so right off the bat, getting into that video, it's like, okay, this is a feel of a game that I don't know could be replicated at Memorial Gym. I don't know that
And it's going to be hard too
and
because it wasn't either side. Sorry. This game always gets described like, and you're doing a great job of painting the picture, but this game always gets described as Vanderbilt came in and upset Tennessee in this miracle. They were number 4. Vanderbilt was number 14 in the country at the time. This was not just anticipated because Tennessee was number 1. Vanderbilt was also number 14, and with that win, boosted into legitimate talks of them being a national contender. And I don't think that's really happened since.
No, I mean, well, they were no slouch of their own. Like you said, top 15 team in the country. Vanderbilt, they had to have felt a little bit disrespected. I mean, obviously they had the spotlight on them, but I'm sure in the moment leading up to that, you had a lot of talk of, is Vanderbilt ready for the big time? But it's at home. Vanderbilt has the advantage. You've got guys like Jermaine Beal, Shane Foster, Alex Gordon, a young AJ Ogilvy, Ross Neltner. Jamie Graham had some
Ross
experience in
Neltner.
in
That
that
is a
game.
name right there that I have
Yeah,
not thought of in a long
yeah,
time.
really good. I mean, solid player. He was a big part of that team. Jamie Graham was a big part defensively on that team, and he
Two
was
sport athlete
yeah,
there in
yeah,
Jamie Graham.
and he was arguably just as good defensively in basketball as he was an athletic football player. I mean, he was a freak on defense. Keegan Bell is another guy, Will, that he was almost the hero of that. I mean, he was technically the hero of that game. You see the play late where he almost stepped out of bounds. He was about a centimeter away from stepping on the baseline to save Vanderbilt in that
I
game.
think the
And so,
announcer said something like the court is 94 and whatever feet, and he was like, and they're thankful right now for that extra 6 inches or whatever it is on the
yep.
94 and a half feet,
I
because
mean,
man, you could not have gotten closer to having a moment that would now be known as classic Vanderbilt would be the moment of stepping out of bounds. And that's what I keep saying. Something.
That's the theme.
What has happened, Billy? What has happened?
That's the theme of this top 5, Will. Like these moments haven't happened in the past decade. I mean, moments like these, I'm not saying Memorial Magic's gone, but it has, somewhat deteriorated. Obviously, the talent level has changed, but there was a feel in the gym. There was a difference. I mean, they had really good teams, yes, but I mean, it was different, and so that was part of it. And also, by the way, Will, Shane Foster had 32 points that game. I mean, he was a big part of that. Vanderbilt won 72-69, and Will, he actually joined the Doorport. I know you remember this. It was right around his jersey retirement ceremony, and he said about that night, Memorial Magic played an incredible role as the 6th person on the floor for us. They're not only loud and yelling and screaming and cheering on us, but in pivotal moments, whether someone's trying to hit a free throw or another person's trying to communicate to a player on the other side of the court, it's those kinds of things. Having our student section go crazy and bring in props and stuff like that, it all feeds into the experience of the game and gives us energy. It gives us the ability to overcome adversity. And that you talked about it in prior episodes this past season, Will. The student section makes a difference. And the broadcasters talked about it this past season as well. When Vanderbilt didn't have students, that's on average about a 6-7 point difference. I mean, it's not statistically proven, but everyone knows the student section on a home court advantage makes that much of a difference. And, like we said, Will, Memorial used to be one of the best home court advantages in the country. I mean, that season, 2008, they were actually perfect at home for the whole season. And I look back at their schedule. I wasn't at this game, but I mean, just watching the game on YouTube, it's incredible. I mean, that has to be up there for me. That's the best atmosphere for me. That's the best environment and kind of pregame atmosphere build up. There are also some really good moments, but we're going to be getting to the best moment and kind of overall moments here coming up. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that video. I mean, that first 2 minutes of that video. You look at that as a Vanderbilt fan, and you just kind of pinch yourself,
What has happened?
like
And that's against number 1 Tennessee. And you could probably count on your fingers and your toes how many orange shirts you see in that whiteout. And that is the part that is mind-boggling, is the fact that right now, I don't think that Vanderbilt, if number 1 Tennessee came in, that place would be 60-70% orange. And the difference is it has nothing to do with any part of the fan base. Nashville's changed, whatever. College sports aren't as localized, whatever. That's not the issue. The issue is that you can play yourself into irrelevance, and people come to watch winning products. And it's as simple as that. Were the confines of Memorial Gym comfier in 2008? Were the drinks and snacks better? I mean, there were more options in Nashville, but this is what I always get to, which is you upgrade facilities to bring in recruits and have a better experience and expand your fan base and make it a hotter ticket when you're struggling, when you're at the point Vanderbilt is. But in the end, just win games and you're going to sell out and you're not going to have opponents take it. I guarantee you, I will bet any amount of money, if Vanderbilt rattles off 4 straight winning college football seasons, that place will be packed full. It will be a hot ticket, and you will only see other SEC fans in the opposing visiting section on the opposite side of the field looking into the sun. Guarantee it. Because you saw it in 2012 against Ole Miss. You saw what that place and that environment would be. That was 80% Vanderbilt fans. Hell, Vanderbilt fans are starving for something like that to bring them to Tennessee. I mean, in football, you saw it in 2017 against Kansas State. It's anything. And I keep pointing to football because, hell, you've had a lot more recent success in football, which is crazy to say. I mean, you had the little bit of a run this past year, but you had it felt a little bit like you were inching towards getting back to the place of Memorial magic. But then you look at that video from 2008 against Tennessee and you say, no, we are not. No, Vanderbilt, you were not anywhere close. I mean, it doesn't even approach 10-20% of what that place used to be. It used to be shaking in there. And I think that was something that we took for granted. And right now, it just feels like his foot's going to slide that extra 6 inches and step out of bounds. That Alex Gordon shot or Mario Moore shot doesn't go in, or the Shane Foster shot doesn't go in. And that's not something that's explained out by stats. So I'm always an analytical guy, Billy. But something feels different now. And it felt different in baseball this last season. I think a lot of fans felt that way, that it used to be that the Vandy boys were down 4 runs going into the 7th inning. And yeah, you didn't feel great, but you felt like you were putting pressure on the opponent. And I don't feel like any Vanderbilt sport outside of baseball, obviously, and football and basketball has put pressure on the opponent. It always feels like even with a lead in Memorial Gym at Vanderbilt Stadium, that they're just holding on to a lead, and it's inevitably a team is going to make a run and make a comeback. And when Vanderbilt gets down, they don't have that mentality of, well, we just have to climb our way back. I always feel like when Vanderbilt goes down, that's it. And that's just kind of how it's been. And you saw a little bit of a spark of that this most recent year with basketball. And that's why I think me and you have hope going into the season. But it would be crazy to go back to that 2008 environment and be able to relive that. And that's the famous Dickie V crowd surfing. I believe that's from that, or that's from the Kentucky game.
That was Kentucky. Yeah,
that was Kentucky. Yeah, because that wasn't the whiteout. That's but
yeah,
man, It's
And
pretty
and
sad.
Will,
I don't want to say sad. It's disheartening to look back and see that wasn't that long
yeah.
ago.
And the most recent, I think, atmosphere that came close to 2008 was 2011, 2012 season against Kentucky, where
And that was
College
still
Game
10
Day was
years
there.
ago.
I didn't put that on the list. If they would have won that game, they're in my top 5.
Mhm.
I think they're in your top 5 as well. I think they're in everyone's top 5 because they didn't win it, they're not. But that atmosphere, whew, I mean, that place was jumping that night too. I mean, I remember being there up in level 3. I think it was 3F, and it was incredible. So, and SEC, other SEC teams, I remember talking to Kentucky fans after that one, and they were like, "What an atmosphere!" I mean, that's a great environment for college basketball, and it still can be. I don't want to paint the picture that it's dead. And we've mentioned there's a lot of work to do, and you saw the taste of it against Dayton. I mean, we were both there, I think, Will, and I mean,
Yep.
they were getting there. You saw that taste. It was maybe
Because
too little, too late.
They won a few
Yep.
games. That's it.
That's
It
what
doesn't
happened.
take a lot. You don't have to win a national championship. You have to
It's
be a
not.
winning, entertaining product.
And
That's it.
it wasn't about the new amenities in the arena. It wasn't about the new concessions. It wasn't about the new floor. It's about winning games. And we talked about that ad nauseum. But yeah, well, I mean, we're in agreement. Number 2, and then I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. Number 1,
You know
Shane
what?
Foster.
We can just list both
iconic.
of it as number 1.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
Will and
didn't even
Billy's
put
number 1.
I didn't even put either name. Shane Foster's iconic performance. I'm going to go ahead and share this.
Yep, please.
I'm going to play like the last 2 minutes of this, and hopefully it shows most of his 9 threes.
No. Don't play this one. Play the one that do you hear the audio on it? Because I want to share the Joe Fisher audio so badly.
I'll go to that one.
That number 1 there.
Yeah, I'm going
that's our Twitter.
we tweeted this.
Yeah, so this is the Joe Fisher call in the background of it. So that's what I was going to hold up my phone and play it if we can't hear it.
Okay, let me know if you can hear this. Okay, we're getting there.
Not hearing it.
Not hearing it?
No.
Okay, well, I'll take the audio out for now.
Yep.
But I mean,
let's play the audio. We can play the audio at a later time. But
yeah,
he hit 9 straight or not. I don't know if it's 9 straight, 9 threes in the second half and overtime.
Yeah, it's
including
incredible
some of these shots that
how tough these shots were. I mean, there's one at the end where it was 35 feet out, but even these, I mean, those are not short threes. Those are a step or two off the line. Then he had an alley-oop dunk there, which was all showing his athleticism. But the crowd too, Will. I mean, look at everybody standing up behind the basket. I mean, that's what.
Yeah, I like playing the video. Like. I definitely want to play this Joe Fisher call.
No doubt. Yeah, we'll get it out there.
It almost brings a tear to your eye listening to that and just thinking how good.
I mean, that shot.
That one is the one. That was the go-ahead shot for the win, and then thank God that half-court shot here from Texas A&M or Mississippi State didn't.
I mean, look at
Texas
this.
A&M was not in the SEC at that point.
That's incredible. I mean,
yeah, I don't want to talk too much because most of our listeners do still come from audio only. So I don't want to be like it's too much. Like watch that. Most of it is not the live stream, but let me find the audio on this.
Yeah, see if you can share the audio. The audio worked better when you shared it, Will. But
were you able to hear it when I was sharing mine?
I was able to hear that.
Okay,
so let's just let it play when you share it. And be quiet and let everybody else hear it because Joe Fisher's call is pretty special.
Make sure you're able to hear it. Give me a thumbs up or something because remember I can't or text me or something because I can't go to the screen.
I will make sure everybody can hear it.
There we go. All right, I got to get it pulled up now, Bill.
I almost
but clearly not. So right now I'm pulling up the Shane Foster audio here from his senior night. Joe Fisher, the GOAT, who I greatly miss.
The Golden
I'm broadcasting games so badly. I don't want.
At the same, I feel bad for people coming back and listening to this on podcast. Okay.
The open three. Good again. 68. Got to go fast. Shane from 30 feet. Shane hit it. Timeout. 20 seconds to go. 18 seconds. Foster off the screen. Gets another one. Up from 3-point range. Good. Oh, my gosh. 34 for Shane. Tied at 74. 10 seconds to go. Rhodes guarding him, so they run the back door. Alley-oop. Slam Shane Foster. He's got 36. 84-80. 32 seconds to go. Shane Foster, long three, nailed it. Timeout. Oh, my goodness. Shane Foster with 39. And that was another 30-footer. 7, 6, 5. Up top, Foster, 4. Shane for 3. Go! Oh! 2.7 to go. Here we go. Stewart. Down court from midcourt. Launches it at the buzzer. It's so good! It's so good! The Vanderbilt Commodores.
There it is. There it is. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, Joe Fisher simply calling that.
Yeah, if I'm not responsive, by the way, I can't. The audio of Joe Fisher is very much outweighing your voice, Billy.
Oh no, that's fine. I don't need people to hear me in the middle of a Joe Fisher call. Can you hear me?
There's no words to describe what he just did.
No words. No words. Incredible.
This scene, I have chills right now.
Well, I think it is delayed on your end.
I'm just reminiscing right now.
Okay, it's still up for you, Will?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, it's still
Okay.
pulled up, but I think it closed out. You can't see my screen anymore, so I think we're good.
It closed out, but I mean, Joe Fisher's
You
call.
got the gist of it. So it's a rough go of it to start for this show.
Yeah,
sharing
hey,
our screen.
But
it's an addition.
It's an addition. You know, people are going to bear with us here, but hopefully we get some good reviews on this. But yeah, Shane Foster, just iconic. I mean, that's the one word I have. There's not much more you can say. There's a reason number 32 is now hanging in the rafters. What a special night. Senior night, 9 straight threes to beat Mississippi State in overtime, 86-85. And after the game, Rick Stansbury, Mississippi State's head coach at the time, had a pretty funny quote. He said at the end of the game, not a whole lot to say except this. It's simple. Foster beat us. I can't say anything else about it. Wasn't anything they did. He just jumped up most of the time in stressful situations and made shots. Absolutely nothing else I would do different. Absolutely nothing else we could have done. He just simply jumped up and made 30-footers with someone in his face. I mean,
if there wasn't video of that, it sounds like a story that someone makes up about their high school senior night that's way over exaggerated. Yeah. There were 3 people guarding me on my senior night, and I hit 9 straight threes to win the game, buzzer beater to send it, like all this stuff, and you'd be like, yeah. And I think probably the thing I always think about is this was 2008, so social media was non-existent, clips were non-existent. I think about how viral that individual 2-minute stretch, that little highlight stretch that we had in HD quality and seeing those shots, that would have blown up across all social media. Vanderbilt basketball would have gained 5,000 followers across between their Instagram and Twitter. And that is what they haven't had in anything but baseball. Right now, and this is a little bit off topic here, we're getting off, but I've been thinking about this all day, and that Vanderbilt baseball has been able to capitalize on. They brought in great marketing and great video people, but they've actually had stuff happen. That's the problem, is they're putting out good content for basketball and football, but look at the top 5 moments that we just ran through. You had the most recent one, and it was 11 years ago. And nothing other than that was in past 2009. So nothing even in the 2010s, certainly nothing in the 2020s. And so there's just, I don't know how to say it over and over without just saying you just have to win. And we discuss all this stuff and do all this stuff, but man, that's a lot of great memories while simultaneously kind of bringing me down a little bit, thinking about how young I was in all of those, when all of those things happened, and really looking at, man, that was 14 years ago. Was most of the last real outside of 2012, which was 10 years ago when they won the SEC championship, which of course didn't happen inside of Memorial Gym. These are the moments within Memorial Gym. Really, since then, it's been a decade since Vanderbilt basketball has had any relevance whatsoever or competitiveness for the most part. I mean, really at that level that they were at so consistently for a decent amount of time, because there was a good little stretch there. We had a wide range of years from 1989 to 2011, but that's a wide range that stopped quite a few years ago, Billy. So I don't know. Do you think these are the guys to bring it back as we transition to the conclusion of episode 167?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've talked about it. I do think Clark Lee is is at Vanderbilt to stay. I mean, at least in football. I mean, now we've seen 4 or 5 years down the road, we're probably not going to see the fruits, of his labor until then. But basketball, Jerry Stackhouse, you saw a taste of it at the end of last season. You really did. And baseball, we don't. I mean, yes, we had a problem with this past season, but let's face it, they're not going anywhere. I mean, yes, it was a down year, but let's face
It's
it,
also a different level of judgment and expectation. I mean, they pushed Oregon State to Game 7 of their regional, and we're like, it was a disaster. The season was a disaster, and you're just sitting there reevaluating things, and that would just be like the peak possible thing to reach in basketball right now. Like, we would be sitting here talking about how spectacular of a season it would be if they got knocked out in the round of 32 in the NCAA tournament. So it's hard giving grades with the Vanderbilt programs because they're just at such different starting points.
I mean,
they're starting miles and miles and miles back.
Yeah, they still finished top 25. I mean, they were finished a top 25 team and took Oregon State, a top 8 overall seed, to the brink and almost end up playing Auburn in a super in Auburn, Alabama. So, it's obviously different times, Will, but going back to those moments, I think of being in middle school. Like that, I mean, that like middle school, like 7th, 8th grade, back in 2008 through, around 09, 10, 11, 12, 13, those years. I mean, hearing the names of Jermaine Beal, Shane Foster, Alex Gordon, Ross Neltner, I mean, AJ Ogilvy, like hearing the names of those guys, that's what brings back memories. And then you start seeing the clips and kind of the quality of the videos, and it's like, damn, I mean, that was a while ago. Like that, I mean, we're getting old, but that's a while ago. I mean, Vanderbilt Athletics.
I think we're going to look back, and the further and further we get away from it, I think I'm becoming more resolute in this opinion. But like 2007 to 2014 is going to be in 40 years, assuming that NCAA athletics appear anything the way they do now with the conference realignment that's going on with UCLA and USC moving to the Big Ten. Who knows?
Crazy.
But 2007, 2008, really 2007 was the beginning with beating number 1 Tennessee, and then, or I guess that was number 1 Florida in 2007 at Memorial. 2008, you have the bowl game, Bobby Johnson finally getting to the Music City Bowl, first one since 1982. And then you go along a stretch of not just one sport, but every sport kind of being at the peak that they have been at for 50, 60 years. And it was all happening in the same 6-year span. You had Vanderbilt football was without a doubt the best stretch they've ever had was 2008 to 2014 in modern college football. And then you had the first national championship in baseball in 2014 that you had the Dansby Swanson, you had all those faces that really revolutionized that brand. And then on top of that, you had basketball win the SEC championship in 2012, and you had the best stretch of players and consistent performance making it to NCAA tournaments with Kevin Stallings that you've ever seen, really ever. And it's not like they won a ton of national championships across all these sports, but the bar is just a little bit different. And I think the further we move away from those years, it seems when we're making these top 5 lists, there are a hell of a lot of top 5s between that 06-07 year and about that 2014 year. There are a lot of these people that we're putting in, and that's not just because those are our growing up years and formative years growing up and becoming a Vanderbilt fan. It really is because that was the best era that Vanderbilt athletics has ever seen, unless you went back to the 50s.
Yeah, if we would have been able to meet each other in like 2007 and start the podcast in about 2008, we would have blown up in 2-3 years. I mean, that's simply what Vanderbilt athletics brought to the table at that point in time. I mean, basketball, football as well. You mentioned the Music City Bowl. And then through about 2014, 2015, say we retire from the door port, that would have been one hell of a stretch. I mean, it
the funniest part of all of this is everybody is, I want wins, and wins will continue to grow. But you know what our most listened to episode still is, Billy? After all this time, we've had Clark Lee, Jerry Stackhouse, and Tim Corbin on this podcast before. And our most listened to podcast is still the one we did reacting with Chris Lee after that ETSU loss.
Yep.
So that was definitely when we grew the most, was in the biggest moment of turmoil that I think that we've experienced while doing this podcast. I don't know. We've been here for some tumultuous moments in Vanderbilt athletics. I mean, we went through the Sarah Fuller situation that they had against Missouri, where they couldn't even get in the range of her to be able to attempt a point, even attempt a kick, which was the most to somehow find embarrassment where it's already like the basement is not truly the basement. And then we went through literally canceling a game because they couldn't field enough players. I mean, that is crazy. I know it was COVID, but we went through that. And then the next football season, as if we needed more, they lost for the first time in the history of the program to an FCS opponent. So that was the stretch that we went through, Billy, right when we really started kicking this thing into gear. Is we have powered through and continued, and no one will ever question our loyalty to the black and gold here. Because, dude, when you start listing off the moments that we've experienced while doing this podcast, it is a hell of a list, man. And it is not a list that has a lot of fun moments on it.
No, it's not. But I think that
it has a lot of fun moments of recording. Doesn't have a lot of successful athletics moments. We have not seen a lot of wins in the 2.5 year stretch.
We haven't seen a lot of wins on the field, Will, but we never lose a podcast. We have never lost a podcast.
Win the day. Yeah.
Win the podcast. But, Will, I think we just won that one right at an hour. Top 5 Memorial Gym moments. I mean, almost brought a tear to our eyes a few moments there. But that does it. Does it, Will. Got a little dusty. But we'll be back next week. Maybe we'll go to another sport. We'll probably go to baseball. I think a few moments. We might have to go top 10. For baseball.
I don't want to do baseball. It's there's too many moments. Because the national championships are going to be one. 2014 Natty. That, like, football, I think we will have very different moments. And I think that I think we should do football. And I know you probably wanted to save it, but we can probably talk about this. But I think we should put out a question of what we should do for our next top 5 on Twitter and see what responses we get there. Because I think this one will have a lot that people will be mad that we missed moments not in our top 5. So we'll see what reaction we get and if we sounded too ignorant naming off that top 5, which I don't think we will, because I've watched every Vanderbilt basketball game that has happened since like 2004. So it'd be very difficult for me to miss too many moments. But if there's something before that, I'm sure there's something we missed from the 80s. Yeah, because there were just too many moments.
We're definitely gonna miss. We're definitely gonna miss a few that the 40, 50-year-old, man that lives over Westmead, Belmead, close to Nashville area, that they don't, they weren't too happy with a couple of these, but I think we did a pretty good job.
They're going to appreciate that I put in the Goheen. That's going to buy us a lot of slack. That's going to help us out.
The fact that you put in Barry Goheen, I mean, we didn't have much to say about it. We were not there. We were not alive. But I think we're going to get some respect factor for that.
That was actually my number 2. But I bumped it down to get it out there early to cut us some slack on it. And also because I wanted to do our ones that didn't have any video or audio associated with them and get that mess going later into the list.
Yeah.
But that is one of the moments that is always, when you ask anyone that is over, you said the age group very well, like 40, 45 plus, that is the first moment they will say is the Barry Goheen shot at half court against Louisville. And so that's why I wanted to have it at number 2, but there's just not a lot that I can say about it because it wasn't televised. You can't go back and watch it. You can hear the radio call, but there's no way to experience that moment over again. So I think that was probably more deserving than just being number 5. But that's why I said you could just reorder them wherever you wanted in that 2 through 5. The only one that is definitively there is number 1, Shane Foster Senior Night.
There's no other option. There's no other option there. I think 2, you could go another option, but for us to, 2008 Tennessee Vandy, that's definitely up there at number 2 for both of us. But Will, that does.
We do not share these lists beforehand, by the way. So us having the same number 1 and number 2 is completely coincidental. There's no communication. We do that on purpose, and somehow we still manage to have the same number 1 and number 2. So that's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive. Tells you the grip we have on Commodore Nation. Will, you got all ages. I think maybe there's a 12-year-old Vanderbilt fan out there that loved going to the Dayton game this past. That thinks that's up there.
Are still. We've got to expand our female audience, Billy. We are still. We have moved from. We were 99% male audience, and our most recent podcasts have been 100% male audience according to Spotify. So we lost our 1% grip on the Vanderbilt female market. So I don't know what we did, Billy, but we're not bringing in anyone. So our age gap is that age group that you listed off with the Barry Goheen. So I know we are going to get some feedback of some moments that we missed from the 80s and 90s. But
I already know.
Bring it on. I love to hear the stories and the things that we missed. So please put them out there. And if you have any video or any audio, I was searching far and wide on YouTube the past couple of days, and I came up short on a lot of moments that people were responding to your tweet about us going live and doing this
Yeah.
top 5, and I couldn't find anything on a lot of these.
Yeah, it was tough for a lot of them. It was really tough, but I know there's a few former women's bowlers out there that there's some good women's bowling moments, Will. And so maybe if we start talking about some of the women's bowling moments, our audience might go up on the female side. I'm going to try to do some research there, and maybe we get a former women's bowler on. I mean, they're right up there with baseball, Will. They really are. We don't give them enough respect.
I'm just so glad that Vanderbilt. No offense to women's bowling, that is a skill, and you would beat me very badly in bowling. I'm not belittling it, but there was a stretch for a while that I was really afraid that Vanderbilt was going to have that star walk, and the only visible things in the background were going to be women's bowling national championship flags and banners, and that was going to be really, really disheartening. So I'm very, very glad that in 2014. Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt were able to win that national championship, because there's just, even though college baseball is not as big as college basketball or even close to college football, it's a little bit of a respectability factor. So I always think about that as well. So not belittling you, women's bowling, congratulations. You were one of the 2 team sports that has a national championship at Vanderbilt, unless I'm mistaken. So shout out to women's bowling, but thank God for Tim Corbin and Vanderbilt baseball as well.
There it is. Praise God for that. But Will, at the same time, we'll put out the question, and we'll see if the fans would rather see football top 5 or baseball top 5 for next week. We'll have to see about that. But that'll do it for episode 167 of The Dore Report, powered by Alaco Fine Wood Floors.